after reviewing the tape, we got beat by a good football team that's been very consistent on a weekly basis. They came in here the other night and obviously played the way they've been playing all season long. We knew going into it that we had to execute at a high level from an offensive standpoint, take some shots. There was going to be shots down the field that we had an opportunity that we, in practice through the week, we had connected on some of those, and unfortunately the other night we didn't connect when those opportunities presented themselves. Our guys played hard. The effort was there. We got beat by a good football team. When you have 3 turnovers, that just simply can't happen. We did not force them into any mistakes, and really the credit goes to them. Obviously, they've had that same formula all year. They've been very consistent, and you got to give them credit. They came in, they executed. I thought we did a lot of good things, but not enough. When you're playing a good football team like that, you just simply can't have 3 turnovers and expect to find your way into the win column. So disappointed, but yet we got to move on. Our total focus right now is on Eastern Michigan. We got our final home game here for our seniors in the 2016 class here. There's a lot left to play for here in this season. Our guys know that, so we'll be ready to get back to work here on the practice field tomorrow.
You mentioned some of the positive things. You guys obviously had almost 500 yards of offense. Just kind of in general, what kind of things stuck out at you as far as positive things?
Yeah, I think running game-wise for us, that's been something, especially the first half. James had over 100 yards in the first half again. He's been very consistent. The guy plays hard. That's the known. That every single week about James. Our offensive line really did a nice job because it was a big challenge for our guys. This was as good as a defensive front that we've faced. Obviously, they've been near the top in every statistical category that exists. So we knew it was a challenge going in. So I thought our guys up front on the offensive line did a nice job, and especially in that first half. We were able to run the ball. We just didn't put points on the board. So I think starting with that, as much as anything else, that was a big positive for us. And again, I think the other positive is the guys played hard, even though the game obviously looked in the second half like it was out of reach. Our guys played hard. There was no question about the fight, no question about the effort. We got beat by a good football team.
Malik Dunner obviously had an explosive play in that first half. You guys have kind of talked all year about what he's shown you in practice. How good was it to see that translate to a game for him?
Yeah, it was really good. We'd like to see more of those explosive plays. And obviously, when you get Malik on the field, that means James is not on the field. And really, with James and being as consistent as he has been this year, you want to keep him on his field as much as possible. But when you can put a guy like Malik in there and know that, man, at any given moment, any given snap, he can take it the distance like he did the other night. That's good to see for him. Good for his confidence, too. So we'll just continue to build on that, and obviously he'll get as many snaps as we can get him.
Coach, it seemed like this game, after not getting to the passer so much the past few games, you got there in the first half a little bit, kind of disrupted some of their rhythm. What did you think of the ability to kind of get after the quarterback the other night?
Well, it's good that you mentioned that because we did get some shots on him where caused some balls to be, up for grabs, if you will, and like to see us come down with those. Not that we had a chance to make a play on it, but obviously missed a target because he, right as he was delivering, he took a shot. So our guys did get home a little bit. We Coach Dowse did a good job. We knew that our pressure was going to come from obviously bringing linebackers off the edge, bringing 2 guys off the edge. So it was good to see some hits on them. Obviously, we'd like to hit them and force a turnover or get the ball knocked out or cause them to throw an interception. But, you trying to maintain that for 4 quarters was the key. And obviously, they made some adjustments and we weren't able to get some heat on them in the second half. But it was good to see that to start the game, and we knew that, trying to disrupt him and not let him sit in the pocket. And he's got explosive receivers across the board. So, obviously, that was something that we had focused on and wanted to try to get done.
And then after the game, you talked about how Western, what makes them so good is they don't make mistakes. How much progress do you think that you guys have made this year in that regard?
I think we've made, in terms of mistakes, well, obviously, it starts with the turnovers. We've got to eliminate the turnovers. We're 11th in the conference right now out of 12 teams. In turnover margin, that just simply can't happen. It doesn't matter who you are, how good you are, how talented you are. If you don't fix that, then, you're going to find yourself in this position. So we got to get that fixed. Now, I would say our guys on the field, we've executed and done a lot of good things, but yet when you have 3 turnovers, you don't cause any or force them into any, it's tough to win like that. It's we've gotten away with it once or twice this year, but it's not something that we can continue to do. So it's got to get fixed, and obviously if it continues, then you got to look to make some changes to the lineup.
You mentioned getting a little bit of pressure on the quarterback in the game, but obviously I think you only had 1 sack in the last few weeks, and obviously the first half of the season you had 20-some. How do you get back to sacking the quarterback here down the stretch?
I think some of it goes to the credit of the teams that we played have done a good job, whether it's getting the ball out quick, max protecting, or obviously they've done a good job on their end of protecting us. So you got to give them some credit too. But yeah, there's us getting back to just making sure our guys are playing with relentless effort and winning their one-on-one matchups when they present themselves. So yeah, we got to try to emphasize and get back to doing that. But yeah, we've also played some good teams that have good play up front from an offensive line standpoint. So yeah, we got to get back to getting after the quarterback, disrupting timing and causing him to make quicker decisions, faster decisions than he wants to, and maybe that gives us an opportunity to make a play down the field, get an interception or force a turnover.
How'd you think, after going back and watching the film, how'd you think Armani did filling in for Martez, and just kind of how has he improved throughout the year?
Armani's come a long way. Now, we've also asked a lot of him because not only has he been a backup at the safety position, he's also played some corner too. So when you're playing 2 positions and you're cross-training a guy like that because of injuries that have happened at the corner position, he's done a nice job. Now, obviously, I think what's helped him as much as anything else is playing behind 2 veteran players like that in Martez and Corey Hall. Those guys have both helped him tremendously. He knows how to prepare. Those 2 guys are the first guys in the building when it comes to film study and knowing what to expect and what to prepare for. So they've really helped Armani that way. And I'd say he's come a long way in terms of just understanding the defense, understanding how to prepare. And yeah, obviously he's going to, when those guys leave the building here, he's going to have some big shoes to fill in terms of leadership-wise, getting guys lined up in the back end, communication, all those things.
Last week with the extra time, you obviously were able to let some of the young guys go live for a couple of days. Was there anybody that kind of stuck out to you in those periods?
Well, I think there was quite a few guys. I don't want to leave anybody out, but I was impressed really because the first thing you look at when you haven't seen him hit all fall is you want to see who's physical. And it comes to, obviously, you want to see guys tackle that are coming downhill, whether it's a linebacker position, safety position, and then on the perimeter, which guys are willing to block, which receivers are willing to block, which corners are willing to hit, because those guys don't typically when you write up their positives and negatives, when you talk about a corner and you talk about a receiver, the first thing is not really tackling for a corner or blocking for a receiver. So when you get in those live periods like that, you can evaluate them on that. So it was good to see. It was good to see some of those guys mix it up, and I think there were several guys, not just 1 or 2, that showed, hey, I'm willing to mix it up, and the stage is not too big for them.
You've obviously talked a lot about this senior class this year. What is it that you've enjoyed most about working with this group?
Oh, I think, obviously, the one thing I can tell is just when these guys leave out of here, they're going to go make an impact in our world. I think there's a lot of guys here that have really impressed me with their preparation, with their work ethic, with who they are as a person, their makeup. I've been very impressed with a lot of these guys in this class, and I wish I had an opportunity to work with them for more than 1 year because they've been great to be around. They've been a class act. They've, welcomed myself and our staff with open arms during the transition phase, which was not easy for these guys, I'm sure, and you're going into your final year and all of a sudden something like coaching change happens. That's not easy. So they've been great from the beginning, and I'm going to miss them. And it's a good class. It's going to be great to recognize them and be part of that here next Tuesday night. But I'm going to miss the whole group here, and they've been great to work with and really leading by example for our young players that have come in the program.
Mike, what was the attitude of the guys yesterday? Just from the standpoint, I know sometimes a loss like that, even though there are positives in it, can hit guys in certain ways. How have they responded, and how do you make them respond the right way or help them respond the right way so that they realize that there are still goals out in front of you and you don't let that set you too far back with 3 to play?
Well, I think the first thing right after the game was over, once I addressed the football team in the locker room, the one thing I emphasized and made sure to emphasize was there's a lot left to play for here. Yes, it did not go the way we planned tonight. Because let's face it, I expect to go out and win every game when we take that field. We had a great week of practice, but we didn't get it done. But I told those guys that night and made it crystal clear that we got a lot to play for. And the attitude when they left the locker room that night, I felt was where it needed to be. And then when I saw them again after we're done with our film study and looking over the game yesterday, I felt very good in this team meeting room last night that our guys know that, hey, we can still accomplish a lot. This can still be a great season. A 2016 season, especially for these seniors, can go the right way if we finish strong, and that's the focus here. They got one time left here to take this field at Schumann Stadium in front of their friends, in front of their families, in front of our students, and they need to go out the right way, and that's the focus. And I know that that's what we'll bring into the building tomorrow when we go to practice.
I know obviously it's your first year, so it's hard to ask you to compare, but obviously Eastern's been building over the last couple of years. I can't really ask what they've done from last year, but what have you seen at least this year that's said, hey, this is an improved team, a better team, a team that's playing with some fire and that could make some trouble?
Well, I've been impressed with their execution because we've had a lot of tape that's been crossover tape so I've had a chance to see them offensively, I've had a chance to see them defensively, but I've been very impressed with their execution because they've really done a good job too of not beating themselves in a lot of ways. So the games that they've been in, and they've been right there. They've been executing. They've moved the ball. They've stopped teams. They've been a little, the teams when they played explosive offenses, they bend, but they don't break. And so I've been impressed with just their level of execution. When you turn on the tape and you watch them quickly, you can see that they've done a good job that way. And the credit goes to their coaching staff there.
And then particularly with them as well, twofold question. First off, what did Miami do to them this past week that maybe you guys can exploit and work off of as well? And then what have you seen out of Brogan Roback in their passing game that's been really explosive? And what kind of a concern is that going into Tuesday?
Yeah, the quarterback's done a very good job. He's been, once they kind of switched and he took the reins, as a starting quarterback as he has the last several weeks, he's been consistent. He's made some of those downfield throws that you talk about in one-on-one matchups, and that's been impressive because that's shown up on tape each and every week. And I'd say, talking about the Miami game, Miami really kind of got after him. When you look at the tape and you just talk about the intensity and the level of play, obviously Miami was confident going into that game, having won their previous two. So I think you could see that, and they did a good job, Miami did, of limiting big plays for Eastern Michigan, and obviously once they got the lead, then they did a good job of maintaining that and disrupting the execution that had been there on tape from previous weeks with Eastern Michigan.
You've obviously played several Mid-American Conference games now. Overall, is the league better than you thought it would be, more competitive, more talented, and how does it compare to the time when you played in the league?
I think it's better than what I anticipated. I think the league as a whole is better than what I initially anticipated. And that's not that I've always felt strong. Even back when I was a player, I always felt like the Mid-American Conference was overlooked because there's good football, and it shouldn't be a surprise. At the beginning of every season when a MAC team beats a Power 5 team. That should not be a surprise. I know it still gets talked about, and yes, it's considered an upset, but really, I don't consider it an upset because there's good football teams in this conference. And yes, Western Michigan has done a good job, and I'd say from a personnel standpoint, there's better than the teams we've lined up against in terms of personnel. But I think if you look at teams across the board, it's one of those leagues where any given week, man, it could change, and anybody can beat anybody on a given week. If you just talk about the talent level, if you talk about personnel, it comes down to executing. It comes down to limiting your mistakes, and that's something that we have to get better at. We have to eliminate and minimize our mistakes because, the first way, in order for us to switch that record, and, we talked about it last week going into the Western Michigan game, they're 8-0. Yes, they're a good football team, but so are we. We're 4-4. If you want to get to 8-0, one of the number one ways to do that is fix that turnover problem. You get that turnover problem eliminated. We've moved the ball. We've done a lot of good things, but we have to score points and we have to eliminate the turnovers.
Coach, we've talked a lot today about the turnover margin, obviously. Is that more of a kind of decision-making thing, or is that just something you can fix in practice, working on ball security?
I think the ball security's gotten better. The ball security's gotten better. What's happened is the turnovers, the 2 interceptions that Jack had the other night, the first one, he missed inside on a comeback throw. You can't miss inside on a comeback throw. That ball's got to be outside or out of bounds if you're going to miss that throw. You can't miss inside. He did. On the second one, he forced the ball. It was a 1st and 10 play where we're trying to take a shot down the field off of one of our number one running plays in a formation that we've predominantly run out of. And once he came out of the play fake, there were 3 guys from Western back there in coverage. You can't force the ball. It's 1st and 10. Throw it away. We line up, go to 2nd and 10. There's several good plays left, but he forced one. So you can't do that. And then Damon right before the half, obviously, that one, because we work on ball security, we go through a gauntlet drill every day in practice, and for him to put one on the ground there, we had a chance for 3 points right before the half. Obviously can't happen.
What happens that those things become at issue, I guess? If Jack's a smart enough football player that you would figure he knows not to miss inside on a comeback, or
right.
You go back to like the Central Michigan pick in the end zone. Riley's a good enough player and makes the throw enough that overthrow that guy, make sure and at no chance is underthrown. What happens where sometimes guys make those mistakes that they don't usually make, but then in the critical situation something happens and they're kicking themselves immediately?
Yeah, and I wish I could fix that magically. I wish I could attack it and fix it. The best way to do it is build confidence in practice. They've made those throws over and over in practice. Obviously, the pass rushers, if they get to them in practice, they don't hit them. So when they're in the game and the lights are a little bit brighter, and obviously the pass rush is live now and not, hey, they're not going to hit you in practice if they win in a one-on-one matchup, but you have to execute, man. That's what the good ones do, and I'm not going to make any excuses for them. It's just a missed throw, a missed opportunity. And then obviously in the case of the one, he forced it. He forced the ball until they didn't bite on the play fake, and they had a single safety back in the middle of the field and 2 guys trailing. So you just simply can't make that mistake. So it's got to get fixed. Obviously got to continue to harp on it in practice. And I think both guys know, they're smart enough to know that it's a position where you have to execute. You can't throw interceptions, or else then obviously the next step would be you can't play.
Sometimes is it thinking too much, thinking too fast? Is that part of it too sometimes?
I don't, because a lot of those it's not thinking too much. It's they've been in that position. It's not a difficult read, let's say. It's just simply trying to do too much, trying to force something, trying to make something special happen. Let the game play itself out. Don't force the ball into coverage when it's not necessary. We'll line up. The last thing you can do is obviously when you're in a position on their side of the field and you're moving and you got a chance for points, you can't have that happen.
Anything else?
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Coach.